afternoon. Welcome to News Round, a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. I'm Teniola Shibowale. The headlines. Suspected terrorists attack Kuje Correctional Center in Abuja. Over 800 inmates escape. UK court denies former Deputy Senate President Madu and his wife Beatrice bail, both to remain in custody till August the 4th. President Muhammadu Buhari reshuffles cabinet, swears in 7 ministers. Plus, Japan's former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe assassinated during speech at political campaign event. We begin News Round in the nation's capital, where suspected terrorists launched a late-night attack on the Kuje Correctional Center and freed hundreds of inmates, while some persons are reported to have lost their lives in the process. The Minister of Defense, Major General Bashir Magashi, who visited the facility, confirmed the escape of 64 high-profile Boko Haram suspects from the medium-security custodial center. Meanwhile, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria have claimed responsibility for the attack.
It's the morning after at the Kuje Correctional Center following an attack by suspected Boko Haram terrorists. Officers and men of the Correctional Service take stock of burnt vehicles littering the premises. The retrieval process is ongoing as some of those rearrested are returned to the facility. The Ministry of Defense visits the facility on an assessment tour.
What actually happened, they came in numbers, they gained entrance into the prison, and they released some of the inmates, and which we are now following to see the kind of inmates they released. The people who came to do these activities, from the records, we believe that they belong to a particular group, and most likely they are Boko Haram, because we have a sizable number of Boko Harams that are in detention, and presently we could not locate any of them. Only number, I think there are about 64 years in the prison, and none of them now is available. They have all escaped.
The Kuje Correctional Facility houses some high-profile inmates, including suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police, Mr. Abakiari. However, a statement from the Correctional Service confirms the safety of the high-profile inmates, adding that 879 inmates escaped and over 400 of them have so far been retrieved.
These people came specifically, we understand they are Boko Haram, they came specifically for their co-conspirators, and but in order to get them, some of them are in general population, so they broke out, and other people in that general population escaped as well. But many of them have returned. They have reported themselves to the police. Some have returned. Some we have successfully retrieved from the bushes where they're hiding. And right now, at least we have retrieved about 300 out of about 600 that got out of the jail cells.
One person died in the incident, while 3 others were injured. The attackers had reportedly broken into the facility from the back, creating a big hole on the perimeter fence using explosives.
From time to time, we had explosions, which I think resulted in the walls that are falling, that's behind the prison, which I just noticed early this morning. And well, for the casualty, I cannot say anything because I did not see any dead body, but I'm told that there are very minimal casualties.
After inspecting the facility, the FCT minister asks community leaders to cooperate with security agencies in arresting all fleeing inmates.
Today is not a time for a lot of speech making. I've just come, I've seen what is here on ground, I've commiserated with the Controller General, and I want to also assure them that the local community, under the leadership of His Royal Highness the Gomo of Kuje, has been informed to summon all the local heads and village chiefs and community leaders so that those who have escaped here will be traced and will be found.
Although normalcy appears to have returned to the facility, more security personnel are on the ground as the search for the remaining escapees continue.
And more revelations have been given about Tuesday's night's terrorist attack on the Kuje Custodial Center, with security authorities now admitting that no one anticipated it, and the security officials there were overwhelmed by the terrorist superior weapons. This was disclosed by the Minister of Police Affairs after the National Security Council meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari at the State House.
72 hours after one of the most brazen attacks ever witnessed in the nation's correctional center since 2015, President Muhammadu Buhari summons what seems like an emergency meeting of the National Security Council at the State House. The number of security attacks, including that of the Kuje Correctional Center, the president's convoy in Katsina, the Shiroro attack in Niger State, among others, in the last 2 weeks, came under review in the nearly 4-hour meeting. The Police Affairs Minister conveys the president's state of mind.
Mr. President is surprised that what happened in Kuje actually took place in spite of all the security arrangements that have been made to ensure that such an incident does not happen. We are assuring the nation and Nigerians in general that arrangements have been made to ensure that full investigations are carried out and to ensure that a repeat of the incidences will not occur.
According to him, the security personnel at the Kuje medium prisons, where all 69 Boko Haram detainees escaped, among hundreds of others, were simply overpowered.
These kind of things, they happen. And I want to assure you that all those who are supposed to play a role in ensuring that the attack is neutralized did the best that they could to neutralize it. I think what helped them was the number of people they came with and the superior weapons they came with, and because nobody anticipated it, the few people who were there guarding the place could not withstand the number that they came with. I think that was what happened. But like I said, this investigation is still going on, and you will only do good to allow the investigation to continue, and maybe by the time they finish, you will be able to get the details of what actually happened and why it happened.
But there have been about a dozen attacks on correctional centers across the country in the last 6 years, the latest of which exposed the weak infrastructure within the prisons. Now, what impact will the current investigation have? How cogent will it be to forestall further occurrence? And what about the outcomes of the previous investigations? Well, these are questions, unanswered questions. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
To other stories now, the crisis rocking the Bauchi State House of Assembly has taken a disturbing turn following an attack on some state lawmakers by suspected thugs. Those who were targeted are said to be the 22 aggrieved members who had passed a vote of no confidence on the leadership of the Assembly and asked them to resign or be impeached. It was also gathered that the 22 aggrieved members were determined to proceed with the impeachment process and elect a new leader.
An unusual presence of security personnel at the entrance of the Bauchi State House of Assembly clearly shows that all may not be well in the state legislature. They are said to have been deployed after being alerted of an alleged arson on the house. The residue of burnt tires at the gate of the assembly further buttresses the need to be concerned. On Friday, 22 aggrieved members of the Bauchi State House of Assembly passed a vote of no confidence on the leadership of the House over allegations of ineptitude and dereliction of duty, a reason they were asked to either resign or face impeachment. Away from the Assembly complex, these lawmakers across party lines were reported to be holding a meeting at the Assembly's guest house when hoodlums allegedly invaded the premises.
And actually, we are sitting just at this Honorable. Immediately in the morning when we come out, we are about to the Honorable House to go and do our normal activity, which you underline those are not impeachment, just to carry out our lawful activities of the day. So we received a report that talks, and these hooligans were invaded all the Honorable House building with dangerous weapon. We instructed them, but we don't know who instructed them that whenever we come, they should kill us. That is what we respect. So we decided to come to this house. This is our guest house, and that we are holding a meeting, sitting in the fallow. So the advisor on Assembly matters, Honorable Sarabra, just came in. Immediately he went out in less than 30 minutes. So the talks come in hundreds, starting attacking us with a dangerous weapon. They even cut my collar and telling me that somebody should identify, am I among the members, so that they will kill me.
The special advisor to the governor on state and national assembly matters, Sani Bora, denies allegations of involvement in the attack.
I was at the state assembly with the security personnel there, trying to know what is actually going on. They told me that there is any tension for now, and none of the members reported to the house. So I was there when one of them, Honorable Yusuf Dade from Ganjo West, called me on my phone also. He asked me, Honorable, do you know what happened to us? I said, what happened to you? He said, this is what has happened to them. Some talks came to the guest house, and they smashed their cars, and they even snatched some phones from some of them. And even one of them, he mentioned the name of one of them that was wounded, according to him. I say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Sincerely speaking, I don't know anything. So that is all I know about the issue. I have no any business to do with any talk. And anybody that's known me in Bauchi State, I was a member during Madu regime about 12 years ago. So there's no any reason for me to send any talk to attack my own colleague. I am their senior colleague. So I have no reason to do that, and I have no hand in that. Sincerely speaking, I know nothing about that.
The Speaker of the State House of Assembly, Abubakar Suleiman, was elected on the platform of the APC under controversial circumstance, but he later defected to the PDP alongside other members. Meanwhile, amidst the crisis, both the Speaker and the Governor are in Saudi Arabia for the Hajj. So everyone is watching what will happen in the coming days.
When Newsround returns, former Deputy Senate President Madu and his wife Beatrice to remain in custody till August the 4th. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Nigeria's former Deputy Senate President Madu and his wife Beatrice have been denied bail and will remain in custody till August the 4th. This followed their third court appearance in the United Kingdom over organ harvesting charges. The Westminster Magistrates Court accepted that the said organ donor is not a minor. This was after the prosecution in the case said they have confirmed that the complainant is 21 years old and not 15, as earlier stated.
Well, given the huge public interest around this case involving the former Deputy Senate President Madu and his wife Beatrice, there were no surprises that Westminster Magistrates Court was absolutely full of individuals that had specifically flown in from Nigeria to show the senator some support. And of course, there are Nigerians within the British community that have a keen interest in the trial too. two big outcomes from today's hearing. Just when the magistrate was to dismiss the court, the defence lawyers representing the Ekweremadus produced this piece of evidence that had been accepted by the prosecution, which is that this individual is not a minor. It appears as if the information that had been gathered by the senator's defence team in Nigeria had reached London in time for this hearing today, and it was accepted. But that doesn't mean that this case isn't indeed serious. Due to the huge public interest, the magistrate did ask the prosecution to go through the details. I won't go through them now because, of course, many of us will be aware of them, but this does involve organ harvesting and modern slavery. And now the case was adjourned until the 4th of August. This will now be heard at the Central Criminal Court, and both defendants were remanded into custody. I think one of the sticking issues from last week's appearance at Uxbridge Magistrates Court was jurisdiction, but that was cleared up pretty quickly. According to the prosecution, the Attorney General did not have to consent to whether or not this case could proceed in London, and it appears as if that is the case. So just to confirm, the former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu and his wife Beatrice have today in London been remanded into custody yet again, and they are due to appear in front of a judge at the Central Criminal Court on the 4th of August. Juliana Olayinka reporting for Channels TV News in London.
Now, President Muhammadu Buhari has reshuffled the cabinet and administered the oath of office on 7 newly appointed ministers, recently confirmed by the Senate. The new ministers took the oath of office shortly before the commencement of the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting at the Council chamber.
Exactly 14 days after President Muhammadu Buhari submitted 7 names of ministerial nominees to the Senate for confirmation, the president conducts a swearing-in ceremony after they were successfully affirmed a week later by the Senate. All 7 of the new ministers from Abia, Akwa Ibom, Rivers, Ondo, Kano, Imo, and Ebonyi are sworn in and assigned portfolios during the brief ceremony. The new ministers replace those who resigned their appointments from cabinet in April this year to contest for various elective offices during the 2023 general elections.
I expect you to carefully study your sectors, take wise counsel, reach out to key stakeholders, consult and collaborate with all our cabinet colleagues, and focus on driving key programs already initiated by this administration.
Barely a few months to go, the president reassigns 4 ministers. Former Minister of State for Transport, Mrs. Gbemisola Saraki, is assigned to the Ministry of Mines and Steel as Minister of State. Former Minister of State for Health, Dr. Olorunibe Mamora, is posted to the Ministry of Science and Technology. Former Minister of Environment, Mrs. Sharon Ikeazo, is appointed the Minister of State for Niger Delta Affairs, and the former Minister of State for Works and Housing, Mr. Muazu Jaji Sambo, is appointed as the Minister of Transportation.
You must resist bad counsel, resist temptation, and be circumspect in your utterances and conduct. You must totally eschew corruption and be above board, because if caught, there will be no sacred cows.
However, this move raises questions on the capacity of the ministers to deliver on their mandates, given the remaining months in the life of the current administration.
If they serve with integrity and they are able to work collaboratively together with the bureaucracy of the ministries where they have been put, I think they can still make a meaningful impact. But if there is a war of attrition between the substantive minister and Minister of State on one hand, and the ministers and the bureaucracy on the other hand, then nothing much will be achieved, because the truth be said, this administration is in dire need of patrons.
Before the meeting, the Federal Executive Council held a minute silence in honor of the former Secretary General of OPEC, Mr. Mohamed Barkindo, who passed on Tuesday night, hours after the president bade him farewell at the villa.
May the good Lord rest his soul and comfort those that
Even though the president has proceeded on his official trip to Dakar, it is certain that he'll be carrying along a heavy heart, first from the passing of the former OPEC scribe, whom he has lauded in very effusive terms, and the prison attack in Kuje, where it's expected that upon the president's return in less than 48 hours, several security meetings will be lined up to proffer solutions to the situation. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And on the international scene, Prime Minister Boris Johnson has quit as the Conservative Party leader, but says he will continue to serve until the party chooses his successor. The embattled UK leader had faced a growing rebellion within his party over a series of scandals. More than 50 lawmakers resigned from Johnson's government this week, saying he was no longer fit to lead the country. And we end News Round with some sad news from Japan, where former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has died in hospital after he was shot at a political campaign event. Mr. Abe was shot at twice while he was giving a speech in the southern city of Nara on Friday morning.
During a news conference at Nara Medical University Hospital, doctors said Japan's former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has sustained 2 bullet wounds to his neck and also suffered damage to his heart. Mr. Abe, who was airlifted to the hospital, was said to be conscious and responsive in the minutes after the attack, but the 67-year-old's condition deteriorated. Doctors said no vital signs were detected by the time the former Prime Minister was transferred for treatment, and he had to receive a blood transfusion in hospital. Abe was in the western city of Nara campaigning for a parliamentary election when a man opened fire on him from behind. Police have arrested a 40-year-old man who is said to have shot Abe with a handmade gun. A search of the alleged gunman's home also uncovered what police believe are explosives. The attack has shocked a nation where political violence is rare and guns are tightly controlled. It's the first assassination of a sit-in of former Japanese premier since the days of pre-war militarism in the 1930s. Japan's current Prime Minister Fumio Kishida says he is lost for words, describing Abe as a personal friend. Japan's public broadcaster NHK quoted the suspect, identified as Tetsuya Yamagami, as telling police he was dissatisfied with Abe and wanted to kill him. Abe was Japan's longest-serving prime minister, serving 2 terms before stepping down in 2020, citing ill health. He remained a dominant presence over the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, controlling one of its major factions.
And now let's head back to the UK, where former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has resigned. In his resignation speech, he said that the voice of this party is clear now.
After days of battling for his job, Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced his resignation as a Conservative Party leader, but says he will continue to serve as Prime Minister until the party chooses his successor.
It is clearly now the will of the Parliamentary Conservative Party that there should be a new leader of that party and therefore a new Prime Minister. And I've agreed with Sir Graham Brady, the chairman of our backbench MPs, that the process of choosing that new leader should begin now.
He said he's proud of what he's been able to achieve as Prime Minister.
Of course, I'm immensely proud of the achievements of this government, from getting Brexit done to settling our relations with the continent for over half a century, reclaiming the power for this country to make its own laws in Parliament.
The Prime Minister did not apologize for his conduct in office, but blamed the herd instinct for him not being successful in convincing his party to continue to support him.
But as we've seen at Westminster, the herd instinct is powerful. When the herd moves, it fantastic moves.
He also addressed the British public, saying he's sad to be leaving the best job in the world.
Being Prime Minister is an education in itself. I've travelled to every part of the United Kingdom, and in addition to the beauty of our natural world, I've found so many people possessed of such boundless British originality and so willing to tackle old problems in new ways, that I know that even if things can sometimes seem dark now, our future together is golden.
Boris Johnson's premiership has been marred by a series of scandals since his landslide victory in 2019. His latest woes erupted last Thursday over former Deputy Chief Whip Chris Pincher, who resigned amid sexual misconduct allegations. This week, more than 50 members of his government quit, with letter after letter denouncing Johnson and asking him to stand down.
And that's news around this week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Tenyola Bwari.